Hi friends, I hope all is well. This is the third and last art prompts video for this month. We'll talk more about the series at the end of this video. If you haven't watched the other videos in this series, there's a link to the playlist in the description box below. Let's go ahead and pick the third art prompt. I'll be creating a monochromatic collage in the Artist Loft sketchbook, so let's get started. This sketchbook has perforated pages, so I like to put paper behind the page I'm working on to protect the page behind it. I'll be using 2 liquid adhesives, so I don't want any of it to seep through the perforation, causing the 2 pages to stick together. I also do this step if I'm using paint. As I mentioned, I'm using 2 liquid adhesives, Mod Podge and Golden's Fluid Medium. Both are matte. Like with matte paint, using matte adhesives helps to keep the collage from sticking to the page in front of it when the sketchbook is closed. I have a lot of green papers, and I haven't used green that much lately, so that's why I chose this color for this monochromatic collage. There's painted, monoprinted, absorbent ground, and transparent papers. As with all my collages, I'm making sure that all 3 values are represented. The values don't need to be balanced. It's more visually pleasing to me when the values are unbalanced, either leaning mostly light or mid-tone or dark value. I'm starting with a light value paper. This paper was made by taking bubble wrap that had paint on it and stamping it onto a blank piece of paper. It has a nice uneven texture made with bright green and dark teal paint. When I make a collage using a simple composition like vertical and a monoprinted color, I pull a variety of papers such as pattern, solid, transparent, non-transparent, along with various shades of green, from yellowish green to bright green to bluish green. Also, the papers will be cut into different lengths and widths. I like the cutout on this dark green paper, so I'm leaning into it by trimming the torn edges, then gluing it into place. A narrow paper will be glued into that cutout, so it'll look like the paper was glued on top. Also, this dark green paper is narrow at the bottom, so there'll be 1 paper below that section. That leads to the placement of the papers. Consider overlapping papers to add depth to the design. Also, I mentioned cutting papers into different lengths. This will help to add movement. For example, place a short paper right below a long paper. Then vary the lengths of the papers next to this row and add 3 papers instead of 2. At first, I thought this green bubble wrap print would work next to the similar color solid paper if I placed the lighter side next to it, but I thought it was too close in color and value. This other paper that has teal and green is a better choice. The green bubble wrap print works better tucked into the cutout area of the dark green paper. As you watch me finish this first layer of the collage, I'll add music and come back to discuss the second layer that will be the transparent papers. At this stage, the collage is looking busy with all the different green papers, so I decided to use the transparent papers as accent elements instead of a completely new layer. I switched the adhesive to fluid matte medium for this layer. I get better results when layering transparent papers because the fluid matte medium is thinner than the Mod Podge. It helps to keep the transparency of the papers. This first transparent paper is monoprinted deli paper. I put square and rectangle cut papers on the gel plate before pulling the print. This technique allows some of the paper underneath the deli paper to be visible. This saves a step of cutting out this area. Also notice that the green area that's glued on top of the dark green element results in an even darker green. My camera stopped recording while I was gluing 2 more sections of this printed deli paper. It was glued in this section in the upper right and this section near the bottom. Both papers had sections where there wasn't any paint, so the papers underneath are visible. Next, I cut pieces from the painted deli paper that's placed to the left of the collage. The paint gives a distressed look on the paper that I find interesting. If I remember correctly, the print was made by placing the deli paper on the gel plate after I pulled the initial print. When there's paint left on the gel plate, I like to keep pulling prints until either most or all the paint is removed. You can get some beautiful textural prints this way. I only cut narrow pieces because these accent elements fill in sections that need either value or size contrast. The collage needed a few more long, narrow accent elements, but in a darker value. This watercolor painted tissue paper had sections that were darker than the other transparent paper. Here's the finished green monochromatic collage. It shows that you can take a monochromatic color scheme with a simple composition and elevate it by using papers with various shades of green, different patterns, sizes, and transparency. Here's the grayscale version. It's mostly mid to dark in value. As I mentioned in the previous art prompt videos, I want to know if you find these videos helpful and enjoyable. Leave me a comment if you want me to continue this series throughout 2026. I can include art prompt videos along with other art videos. That wraps up this 3rd video in the art prompt series. Look forward to different types of videos for June. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching. Take care.